when a figure is folded into two halves or a line is drawn in the middle of the figure such that the two figures are identical, we say that the figure is called dash.
Excellent. Symmetry is a brilliant choice.
Determine what type of symmetry this shape has. Check all that apply.
You're right. Line is the correct answer.
Is the dotted line in the following figure its line of symmetry?
Excellent choice. No is the right answer.
How many of the following letters have exactly two lines of symmetry?
Exactly. One makes sense and it is right choice.
How many lines of symmetry are there in a triangular piece of paper?
Right again. One is a valid answer.
This is a trapezium. Describe the rotational symmetry of this shape.
Sharp thinking. No rotational symmetry is the right choice.
Examine the pattern. How many circles are there in the fifth figure?
Solid response. 2 is a valid choice. Look at the dotted lines. Which image shows a line of symmetry?
You chose 2, and it is correct. Find the number of lines of symmetry in the figure given below. Good thinking. Zo is the right answer. Look at the picture. Is it showing a correct line of symmetry? Smart pick. No is the correct choice. What is the minimum number of degrees of rotational symmetry?
Right choice. 180 degrees is the best answer.
What is the order of rotational symmetry for the shape below? You got it. Your choice 2 is right. How many planes of symmetry does a square-based pyramid has?
Valid point. 4 is true.
Determine how to translate triangle ABC to triangle AP. Nice work. You chose and it is correct. What is the symmetrical point C compared to the red axis? Bravo! K is the answer. Which picture of the butterfly shows a line of symmetry?
Great thinking. 1 is the right choice.
Tell whether the figures are congruent or not congruent.
Clear logic. Your choice congruent is sound and 100% true.
The function with the graph depicted is an even function.
Good job. Your answer true works well here.
Case study. E will tell you a description of a picture, and you have to tell that it will be symmetrical or not. A salesman is showing cloths to a lady.
Well reasoned. Yes is the correct choice. The front stomach side of this horse is its dash side. Great job. Ventral is the accurate answer.
What type of symmetry do all 3 images have in common?
On track. Reflectional is the correct answer.
What type of symmetry is found in a regular hexagon?
Well picked. All of these is the correct answer.
How is the blue triangle rotated to the red triangle?
Nicely done. 90 clockwise is a solid answer.
The one that is not a correct symmetry line is dash.
Correct. Line quack is the right answer.
A dash is a line that cuts a shape exactly in half.
Smart move. Line of symmetry is an accurate answer.
There are dash line of symmetry of this animal.
Strong choice. 5 is the right answer.
Without using a protractor, find the measure of x. Well done. 28 degrees is the right choice. An isosceles triangle has dashed lines of symmetry. Correct response. 1 is the most accurate answer. Determine if the shape shown is symmetric or not.
Perfect. Symmetric is the correct choice.
If a shape can be rotated around and fits on top of itself perfectly exactly 3 times, then describe its rotational symmetry. The shape has dash. Nice selection. Rotational symmetry order 3 is the correct and valid answer. Main Street and Walnut Street make a dash angle. Great thinking. Right is the right choice. Which image has more than one line of symmetry? Correct. 2 is the right answer. Identify the symmetry of the following organism. Smart move. Radial symmetry is an accurate answer. What is the green dot on the parabola called? Nicely done. Maximum is a solid answer. What kind of angles are angles of B, C, and D? Nice selection. Right angle is the correct and valid answer. Which of these lines has a negative gradient? Solid response. Green line is a valid choice. What is the best term to describe this image? Bravo. Parallel lines is the answer. This diagram is symmetrical or asymmetrical. Sharp thinking. Is symmetrical is the right choice. What shape do you get while you complete it? Right choice. Pentagon is the best answer. This figure has dash fold rotation symmetry. Well done. 5 is the right choice. Does this graph have a maximum or minimum? Smart pick. Minimum is the correct choice. The organism in the image above has dash. Strong choice. Radial symmetry is the right answer. Which triangle have an obtuse angle? Well picked. AH is the correct answer. Are these shapes congruent or similar? Nice work. You chose congruent and it is correct. Does this body system have symmetry? Valid point. Yes is true. Write a rule for the translation. You chose, and it is correct. This stop sign has dash angles. You're right. Obtuse is the correct answer. An organism which can be divided into 2 parts that are nearly mirror images of each other anywhere through its central axis. Excellent. Radial symmetry is a brilliant choice. What transformation is visible? Right again. Dilation is a valid answer. Which of the following letters of the English alphabet has reflectional symmetry about both horizontal and vertical mirrors? You got it? Your choice O is right. Choose the correct option. Correct response. Symmetrical is the most accurate answer. In which type of symmetry can an organism be divided into similar halves by any plane passing through the central axis? Exactly. Radial symmetry makes sense and it is right choice. In an experiment, a biologist observes an organism with no symmetry. What type of symmetry does this organism exhibit?
Good job. Your answer is symmetry works well here.
A transformation that does not change the size or shape of a pre-image is called.
Good thinking. A symmetry is the right answer.
If you divide something in half, these sides are mirror images.
On track. Bilateral symmetry is the correct answer. Translational symmetry means we slide an object to a different position, changing the shape and size in the process.
Excellent choice. False is the right answer.
A figure has dash symmetry when a line exists such that it appears as a reflection or mirror image.
Great job. Line is the accurate answer. Symmetrical? Perfect. Not symmetrical is the correct choice. If a figure is folded across a straight line and the halves match exactly, the fold line is called the dash. Clear logic. Your choice line of symmetry is sound and 100% true.
Which type of body symmetry is characterized by a single plane that divides the body into two equal halves?
Well reasoned. Bilateral symmetry is the correct choice.
Which type of symmetry is characterized by body parts arranged around a central axis, such as in starfish?
On track. Radial symmetry is the correct answer.
What is the order of rotational symmetry for a shape that looks the same after a rotation of 180 degrees?
Correct. 2 is the right answer.
If a figure has two or more lines of symmetry, should it have rotational symmetry of order more than 1?
Well done. Yes is the right choice.
Which type of symmetry is typically associated with cephalization, the development of a head region?
Great job. Bilateral symmetry is the accurate answer.
Which type of symmetry is most advantageous for animals that move actively and have a head region?
Solid response. Bilateral symmetry is a valid choice.
A transformation that turns. A figure about a fixed point at a given angle and a given direction.
Well reasoned. Rotation is the correct choice.
An organism with dash can be divided into two parts that are nearly mirror images of each other.
Excellent. Bilateral symmetry is a brilliant choice. When a shape looks the same only at a full turn, it is said to have dash, rotational symmetry. Correct response. No is the most accurate answer.
Which of the following letters does not have a line symmetry, but has a rotational symmetry?
You got it. Your choice Z is right.
Which of the following shapes is congruent to another if all its sides and angles are equal?
Great thinking. Triangle is the right choice.
Find the component form of vector AB with initial point A and terminal point B.
You're right. 9th 11th is the correct answer.
Dash is an imaginary line where you could fold the image and have both halves match exactly.
Right choice. Symmetry is the best answer. What is the term for a line segment from the center of a circle to any point on the circle? Nice selection. Radius is the correct and valid answer. The quadrilateral, which has both line and rotational symmetry of order more than 2, is dash. Exactly. Square makes sense and it is right choice. A regular polygon has the same number of lines of symmetry as the number of sides it has. Smart move. True is an accurate answer. Which type of symmetry is most advantageous for animals that are sessile or slow moving? Good job. Your answer, radial symmetry, works well here. A figure has dash symmetry when a line divides the shape into two equal parts.
Valid point. Line is true. In which type of symmetry do organisms have body parts arranged around a central axis? Nice work. You chose radial symmetry, and it is correct.
In the word maths, which of the following pairs of letters shows rotational symmetry? Sharp thinking. H and S is the right choice. If a figure is rotated by 90 degrees to get rotational symmetry, it has completed dash. Perfect. Quarter rotation is the correct choice. Which letters in English alphabet has both vertical and horizontal lines of symmetry? You chose X, and it is correct. A quadrilateral with line symmetry, but not a rotational symmetry of order more than 1. Bravo, trapezium is the answer. The number of lines of symmetry in a rectangle and a square are dash. Clear logic. Your choice unequal is sound and 100% true. In the word algebra, there are dash letters that do not have any line of symmetry. Smart pick. 3 is the correct choice. A triangle with only line symmetry and no rotational symmetry of order more than 1. Good thinking. Isosceles triangle is the right answer. Which of the following letters have both horizontal and vertical lines of symmetry? Right again. X is a valid answer. If two triangles are congruent, what can be said about their corresponding angles? Nicely done. They are equal is a solid answer. What type of symmetry do most flowering plants exhibit in their floral structures? Well picked. Radial symmetry is the correct answer. Which of these environments is most likely to have organisms with radial symmetry? Excellent choice. Ocean is the right answer. Which polygon has all sides and angles equal and is also known as a quadrilateral? Strong choice. Square is the right answer. In which of the following organisms would you most likely find bilateral symmetry? Well picked. Human is the correct answer. When something can be divided into two identical halves, when divided at any angle. Correct. Radial symmetry is the right answer. What is the other name can you give to the line of symmetry of isosceles triangle? Well done. Median or altitude is the right choice. What occurs when the body can't be divided into similar sections? Nice work. You chose a symmetry, and it is correct. Which are the two man-made things, ancient things that possess excellent symmetry? Nice selection. Taj Mahal, Eiffel Tower is the correct and valid answer. What is the correct term for the distance across the circle through its center? Good job. Your answer diameter works well here. What type of symmetry is most common in animals that are sessile or planktonic? Strong choice. Radial symmetry is the right answer. What is the angle of rotation for a shape with 4 order of rotational symmetry? Right choice. 90 degrees is the best answer. What happens to figure ABCD if it dilated by a scale factor between 0 and 1?
Exactly. Reduction gets smaller makes sense, and it is right choice.
For a shape to be symmetrical, do both sides have to be the same when divided? You got it? Your choice, yes, is right.
After translational symmetry has occurred, the size of the object will change.
Perfect. False is the correct choice. Animals whose body parts are arranged in a circle around a center point have.
Solid response. Radial symmetry is a valid choice.
Determine what happens to figure ABCD if it is dilated by a scale factor 2.
Great thinking. Enlargement gets bigger is the right choice.
True or false, a right-angled triangle can have at most one line of symmetry.
Smart pick. True is the correct choice.
Can we say that the biggest chord of a circle is a symmetrical line for it? Excellent. Yes is a brilliant choice. How many lines of symmetry does the letter Z of the English alphabet have? Good thinking. ZO is the right answer.
Which of the following is an example of an organism with radial symmetry? Bravo. C. Anemone is the answer.
Which of the letter in English alphabet has no vertical line of symmetry? S. You chose Eve, and it is correct. Name any two figures that have both line symmetry and rotational symmetry.
Smart move. Circle and square is an accurate answer.
Many repeating body parts around a central point. Right again. Radial symmetry is a valid answer.
A square will not be rotationally symmetrical if rotated by an angle of.
You're right. 360 degrees is the correct answer. A quadrilateral having rotational symmetry, but no line symmetry is dash.
On track. Parallelogram is the correct answer.
A dash divides the circle into two equal parts which overlap each other.
Correct response. Diameter is the most accurate answer. When a shape can be divided into two equal halves, it is said to be dash.
Excellent choice. Symmetrical is the right answer.
Is this a scalar quantity or a vector quantity? Wind blowing at 20 knots.
Well reasoned. Scalar is the correct choice. Which of these structures is typically associated with radial symmetry? Valid point. Tentacles is true. What do you call the covering of a flat surface with congruent figures?
Clear logic. Your choice tessellating is sound and 100% true.
How many lines of symmetry does a rhombus have? Sharp thinking. 2 is the right choice. The number of lines of symmetry in a isosceles triangle choice is 2. Great job. 1 is the accurate answer.
The line that goes through the vertex of a parabola is called the dash. Nicely done. Axis of symmetry is a solid answer. What is the arrangement of body parts around a central plane or axis?
You got it. Your choice symmetry is right.
Which of the following figures does not have line of symmetry always?
Strong choice. A triangle is the right answer.
Is it possible to draw a triangle with exactly 2 lines of symmetry?
Good thinking. No, not possible is the right answer.
Which of the following plane figure has exactly 4 lines of symmetry?
You chose square, and it is correct.
Isometries, also called rigid transformations, produce dash figures.
Great thinking. Congruent is the right choice.
What is the longest straight line that can be drawn across a circle? You're right. Diameter is the correct answer.
A rectangle can only have horizontal and vertical lines of symmetry.
Well reasoned. True is the correct choice.
A square and a rectangle have the same number of lines of symmetry.
Exactly. False makes sense, and it is right choice.
Say true or false, an IC's triangle has 2 lines of symmetry.
Great job. False is the accurate answer. How many lines of symmetry are there for a regular quadrilateral? Smart move. Zoe is an accurate answer.
Say true or false, a general parallelogram has no line of symmetry.
Right choice. True is the best answer.
A line that is parallel to this line would have what slope? Y equal to 2x7.
Perfect. 2 is the correct choice.
Which of the following is an example of radial symmetry in nature?
Right again. Sunflower is a valid answer.
Which of the following organisms is an example of radial symmetry?
Smart pick. Jellyfish is the correct choice.
Which one of the triangle has maximum number of lines of symmetry?
Well done. Equilateral triangle is the right choice.
A parabola has a vertex at. Where is the axis of symmetry?
Bravo. X equal to 3 is the answer.
Say true or false, reflection changes the length of line segment.
Valid point. False is true. Radial symmetry is most commonly found in which group of animals?
Correct response. Cnidius is the most accurate answer.
Animals whose body parts are arranged the same on both sides have. Nice work. You chose bilateral symmetry, and it is correct.
How does bilateral symmetry benefit animals in terms of movement?
Nicely done. Facilitates streamlined movement is a solid answer.
What is the tail or hind end opposite the head of animal called?
Well picked. Posterior is the correct answer. Dash. Symmetry, in which a line is drawn from the middle of figure. Good job. Your answer linear works well here.
A dash is not a polygon because it does not have straight sides.
Correct. Circle is the right answer.
Which of these shapes does not have 2 sets of parallel lines? Nice selection. Trapezoid is the correct and valid answer. Dash means that a part of a shape is exactly like another part.
Excellent. Symmetry is a brilliant choice. Which of the following letters has horizontal line of symmetry?
On track. Zo is the correct answer.
Which type of symmetry is characterized by no symmetry at all?
Excellent choice. Asymmetry is the right answer. The total number of lines of symmetry of a scale-in triangle is. Clear logic. Your choice none of these is sound and 100% true. Write 4 English letters which have vertical lines of symmetry. Solid response. AHIM is a valid choice.
Which of the following letters does not have a line symmetry? Sharp thinking. Z is the right choice.
The number of lines of symmetry in an equilateral triangle is.
Perfect. 3 is the correct choice. How many lines of symmetry does an equilateral triangle have?
You got it. Your choice 3 is right.
There is * lines of symmetry in an isosceles triangle.
You chose 1, and it is correct.
Find which letters look the different after mirror reflection.
On track. N is the correct answer. Which of the following organisms exhibits bilateral symmetry?
Solid response. Butterfly is a valid choice.
Identify a shape that has both line and rotational symmetry.
Well reasoned. Circle is the correct choice.
If the scale factor is less than 1, the new figure will be. Excellent choice. A reduction is the right answer.
No apparent arrangement of body parts around a central point. Clear logic. Your choice of symmetry is sound and 100% true.
A polygon is a closed two-dimensional shape with dashed sides.
Exactly. Straight makes sense, and it is right choice.
Radial symmetry is advantageous for which type of lifestyle?
Right choice. Sedentary or slow-moving is the best answer.
Which of the following polygons have 5 lines of symmetry?
Excellent. Pentagon is a brilliant choice.
Which letter has both reflectional and rotational symmetry?
Smart move. H is an accurate answer. A figure with line symmetry can be divided into dash parts. Sharp thinking. Matching is the right choice.
What move requires you to pick up a shape to make the move?
Correct response. Flip is the most accurate answer. How many lines of symmetry are there in a scale-in triangle?
Great thinking. Zo is the right choice. All odd functions have symmetry with respect to the origin. Nicely done. True is a solid answer. How many lines of symmetry are there in a regular pentagon? Well done. 5 is the right choice.
Definition: the figure before a transformation has occurred.
You're right. Per-image is the correct answer.
How many lines of symmetry does the alphabet M have?
Nice selection. 1 is the correct and valid answer.
Identify a shape that has more than 2 lines of symmetry.
Nice work. You chose circle, and it is correct.
The number of rotational and line symmetry for a circle is.
Strong choice. Infinite is the right answer. An irregular plane figure can have dash lines of symmetry. Great job. Many is the accurate answer.
For a shape to be symmetry, do both sides have to be same?
Valid point. Yes is true.
The number of lines of symmetry for a regular hexagon is.
Well picked. 6 is the correct answer.
The radius of a circle divides it into two equal halves.
Smart pick. False is the correct choice.
Right a true, or false a square has 4 lines of symmetry. Correct. True is the right answer.
Number of lines of symmetry in a figure is equal to dash.
Bravo. Number of sides is the answer.
How many lines of symmetry are there in a parallelogram?
Good thinking. None of these is the right answer.
How many lines of symmetry does the parallelogram have?
Right again. No one of these is a valid answer. What type of symmetry does a typical snowflake exhibit? Good job. Your answer, radial symmetry, works well here.
What type of symmetry do most flowering plants exhibit?
Well done. Bilateral symmetry is the right choice. What is the back or upper surface of the animal called? Right choice. Dorsal is the best answer. How many lines of symmetry does a regular octagon have? You chose 8, and it is correct. What is the degree of rotational symmetry of a circle? Correct. Infinite is the right answer.
The number of lines of symmetry for a parallelogram is...
Clear logic. Your choice 0 is sound and 100% true. Radial symmetry is often seen in animals that are dash. Perfect. Sessile or planktonic is the correct choice. How many lines of symmetry are there in the letter? Smart pick. 1 is the correct choice.
Determine the angle of rotation for a regular hexagon.
Valid point, 60 degrees is true.
State true or false, a circle has 13 lines of symmetry.
Good job. Your answer false works well here. Are all the capital letters having a line of symmetry? Smart move. No is an accurate answer. Identify the lines of symmetry in a regular pentagon. Nice work. You chose 5 lines of symmetry, and it is correct. How many lines of symmetries are there for a rhombus? Solid response. 2 is a valid choice.
Which of the following has only 1 line of symmetry?
Right again. A semicircle is a valid answer. Extend the pattern 1E1, 281, 381, dash, dash, dash. Strong choice. 481, 581, 681 is the right answer.
In radial symmetry, how are the body parts arranged?
Well picked. Around a central point is the correct answer. Find the number of lines of symmetry of an arrowhead. Nicely done. 1 is a solid answer. The total number of lines of symmetry in a square is... Well reasoned. 4 is the correct choice. What is the belly or lower surface of animal called? Exactly. Ventral makes sense, and it is right choice. How many symmetrical lines can pass through a circle? Bravo. Infinite is the answer. Number of lines of symmetry in an isosceles triangle. Excellent choice. 1 is the right answer. The order of rotational symmetry of a circle is dash. You got it. Your choice infinite is right. Organisms that cannot make their own food are called. Good thinking.
Heterotrophs is the right answer.
True or false, the letter B has one line of symmetry.
Great thinking. True is the right choice.
The number of lines of symmetry for a quadrilateral.
Correct response. Zo is the most accurate answer.
The number of line of symmetry in a divider is dash.
On track, 1 is the correct answer.
Shapes can have dash symmetry when they are rotated.
Sharp thinking. Rotational is the right choice.
If the shape is not symmetrical, it is called dash.
Nice selection. Asymmetrical is the correct and valid answer.
How many lines of symmetry a scalene triangle has?
Great job. No line of symmetry is the accurate answer.
Can something have more than one line of symmetry?
Excellent. True is a brilliant choice.
There are dash line of symmetry in a rectangle.
You're right. 2 is the correct answer.
A regular polygon dash be divided into 2 halves.
Well done. Can is the right choice.
Find the rule the pattern is using. 119753.
Sharp thinking. Subtract 2 is the right choice.
How many lines of symmetry does a circle have?
On track. Infinite is the correct answer.
Is human body symmetrical from inside or outside?
You're right. Outside is the correct answer.
Which type of symmetry involves turning an image?
Nice work. You chose rotational symmetry and it is correct.
Which of the following letter is not symmetrical?
Nice selection. N is the correct and valid answer.
A rectangle have dash number of lines of symmetry.
Excellent choice. 2 is the right answer.
Which type of body symmetry is found in starfish?
Good job. Your answer, radial symmetry, works well here.
Which of the following is not a regular polygon?
Well picked. Rectangle is the correct answer.
I am a 3D shape with all square faces. Who am I? Exactly. Cube makes sense and it is right choice. Find the rule the pattern is using. 8, 16, 32, 64. Strong choice. Multiply 2 is the right answer.
Guess my shape. I have no sides and no vertices.
Solid response. Circle is a valid choice.
What is the center point of equilateral triangle?
Perfect. Intersecting point of median is the correct choice.
What are the angles of rotation for a rectangle?
Excellent. Multiples of 180 is a brilliant choice.
The number of lines of symmetry in compasses is...
Correct. Zo is the right answer.
What is the head or front end of an animal called? Great thinking. Anterior is the right choice.
The number of lines of symmetry in a circle are... Smart pick. Unlimited is the correct choice.
Quadrilaterals have dash sides and dash angles.
Great job. 4, 4 is the accurate answer.
All even functions have symmetry to the x-axis.
Bravo, false is the answer. Which letter does not have rotational symmetry? Right again. T is a valid answer.
The number of lines a quadrilateral cannot have.
Clear logic. Your choice 3 is sound and 100% true.
Which of these polygons has only right angles?
Right choice. Square is the best answer.
The triangle having no line of symmetry is
Valid point. Scaling is true.
How many symmetrical lines does a circle has?
Smart move. Infinite is an accurate answer.
Which line is symmetrical for our planet Earth?
You chose equator, and it is correct.
A line of symmetrical can only be horizontal.
Correct response. False is the most accurate answer.
Are all the things in the nature symmetrical?
You got it. Your choice no is right.
How many lines of symmetry a semicircle has? Nicely done. 1 is a solid answer.
Which following number has lines of symmetry?
Well reasoned. 8 is the correct choice. The letter Z of the English alphabet has dash.
Good thinking. No line of symmetry is the right answer.
A regular hexagon has dash lines of symmetry.
Excellent. 6 is a brilliant choice.
Lines of symmetry in an equilateral triangle.
Strong choice. 3 is the right answer.
Which letter does not have symmetry?
GHOE?
Sharp thinking. G is the right choice.
How many lines does Isosceles trapezium have?
Smart pick. 1 is the correct choice.
How many sides does a regular pentagon have? You chose 5, and it is correct.
A rectangle has rotational symmetry of order.
Great thinking. 2 is the right choice.
Reflect the point over the line y equal talks.
Good thinking is the right answer. Body plan with a right and left mirror image. Excellent choice. Bilateral symmetry is the right answer.
A parallelogram has dash lines of symmetry.
Perfect. Zo is the correct choice.
Order of symmetry of the letter or esh is dash.
On track. 2 is the correct answer. Identify the lines of symmetry in a square. Good job. Your answer 4 lines of symmetry works well here. The order of rotation of a line segment is well reasoned. 4 is the correct choice.
How many lines of symmetry a rectangle have?
Nicely done. 2 is a solid answer.
Classify a shape with no lines of symmetry. Solid response. Scalene triangle is a valid choice.
Angle of rotation for parallelogram is dash.
Valid point. 180 degree is true.
Which shape has 2 sets of parallel lines?
You're right. Parallelogram is the correct answer.
A rectangle has how many lines of symmetry?
Smart move. 2 lines of symmetry is an accurate answer.
Symmetry is when both sides look the same.
Great job. True is the accurate answer.
Which word means equal in size and shape?
Clear logic. Your choice congruent is sound and 100% true. Which triangle has no lines of symmetry? Nice selection. Scale-in is the correct and valid answer.
The mirror image of the letter H is dash.
You got it? Your choice H is right.
Does all shapes have a line of symmetry?
Exactly. No makes sense, and it is right choice. How does glide reflection symmetry work? Bravo. Reflection followed by translation is the answer. Number of lines of symmetry in a rhombus? Right again. 2 is a valid answer.
The line that divides a figure is a dash. Well done. Line of symmetry is the right choice.
What type of symmetry do humans exhibit?
Correct. Bilateral symmetry is the right answer. Write the mirror image of the word mom. Nice work. You chose mom, and it is correct.
Which letter has line symmetry? Says.
Right choice. H is the best answer.
A square has dash line of symmetry.
Correct response. 4 is the most accurate answer. An octagon has dash lines of symmetry. Well picked. 8 is the correct answer. Line of symmetry is also known as dash. On track. Axis of symmetry is the correct answer. A rhombus has dash lines of symmetry. Right again. 2 is a valid answer. How many types of symmetry are there? Excellent. 4 is a brilliant choice. Which of these is a part of a circle?
Smart pick. Chord is the correct choice.
A shape that 3 lines of symmetry. Nicely done. Equilateral triangle is a solid answer. 1 complete rotation is called dash. You got it.
Your choice full turn is right.
The word Malayalam is palindrome.
Good thinking. True is the right answer.
All arthropods have dash symmetry. Smart move. Bilateral is an accurate answer.
Smallest unit of geometric measure.
Valid point. Point is true. What is another word for a flip?
Perfect. Reflection is the correct choice.
Can a human's face have symmetry? Great job. Yes is the accurate answer. Symmetry is seen in many objects. Well done. True is the right choice. 12, 15, 18, 21 is the rule.
Right choice. +3 is the best answer.
Is symmetry used in real life?
Excellent choice. Yes is the right answer. Is the letter P symmetrical? You're right. No is the correct answer. What does symmetry creates? Correct response. 2 equal parts is the most accurate answer. Which word is a palindrome? You chose civic, and it is correct. All animals are capable of. Nice work. You chose movement, and it is correct.
All shapes are symmetrical. Strong choice. False is the right answer.
Scale factor of 5 is dash. Sharp thinking. Enlargement is the right choice. Which is not an isometry? Good job. Your answer dilation works well here. Can have radial symmetry? Well picked. Invertebrate is the correct answer.
All vertebrates have.
Solid response. A backbone is a valid choice.
Symmetry means shape. Bravo. False is the answer.
Is symmetry useful?
Great thinking. Yes is the right choice.
A circle has dash.
Well reasoned. Both and is the correct choice.
Most sponges have.
Nice selection. Asymmetry is the correct and valid answer.
Internal skeleton.
Exactly. Endoskelet makes sense and it is right choice.
3645 dash.
Clear logic. Your choice 54 is sound and 100% true.
Animals are.
Correct. All multicellular is the right answer.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Well reasoned. Contact Narayan Chengder on Facebook is the correct choice.